Attention! This is part 2 of our story. Part 1 is in the comments. It had been almost a year since Ruan moved into the house next door, but, in reality, he spent much more time at my house than at his. The truth is that our coexistence had become routine, a pleasant habit that filled my days without me even noticing. Our relationship was going well. Very well, in fact. It was light, sincere, full of affection and little rituals that only those who live together understand. We were in tune, and every day with him seemed to confirm that we were on the right track. Until that day, I was relaxing at home, in no hurry, just enjoying the afternoon, when the phone rang. It was the doorman. "Mr. Andre, there's a Felipe here looking for you. Can I let him in?" For a moment my body froze. Felipe? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My first reaction was to say no, to ask them not to let him in. But curiosity got the better of me. What did he want, after all this time? Felipe was my ex-boyfriend. As I've told you before, we were together for almost 10 years. A whole decade of stories, phases, changes. And even though the end was well and truly over in my mind, his name still carried a certain weight. I took a deep breath and asked the doorman to let him in. I waited with the door open, leaning against the doorframe, as the end of the day approached. The sky was already turning golden when he finally arrived. "Felipe." We talked normally, without any apparent tension. After a while, I asked him straight out what he wanted. He said he needed my signature on some documents regarding the transfer of assets we had together. In the division, he had kept the apartment and a few other things, but now he needed to sell, and for that, my signature was necessary. "Okay," I replied. "Where are the documents?" "They're here, in my backpack," he said, opening it. Then he looked at me and added, "I've been traveling since early this morning. Can I take a shower? And, if it's not too much trouble, could I sleep here tonight?" At that moment my head screamed, "This is going to cause problems." But on the outside I remained calm. "Go take your shower and I'll think about it," I replied, avoiding a direct yes. He nodded and headed for the bathroom. As the water began to run, I heard the familiar sound of the key turning in the door. It was Ruan coming home. As soon as he walked in, his face still tired from his shift, he smiled at me and said with his usual affection, "Hi, honey. Good afternoon. How was your day?" I replied almost in a whisper, "Hi, honey. Not very good. How was yours?" Ruan frowned, sensing something strange. "What happened? Who's taking a shower?" I hesitated for a second, but decided to be direct. "It's Felipe." He looked at me in astonishment. "Felipe? Your ex?" I nodded. "Yes. He came over saying he needed me to sign some documents. He asked to take a shower and asked if he could sleep here. I said I'd think about it." He stared at me intently. "Think? There's nothing to think about. I don't want that guy here." I took a deep breath and tried to calm things down. "Okay, honey, it's fine. Don't worry." Ruan went to his room in silence, put his backpack away, and then came back. We went to the kitchen together, the atmosphere, more tense than usual, silent, but heavy. When Felipe got out of the shower, he stopped in the living room, still drying his hair with a towel, and was visibly surprised to see Ruan standing there next to me, arms crossed and staring intently. I took a deep breath and introduced them, in as calm a tone as possible. "Ruan, this is Felipe. Felipe, this is my boyfriend, Ruan." The two greeted each other with a restrained, almost formal nod. The atmosphere was visibly tense, but polite. Without wasting any time, I turned to Felipe and said, "Give me the documents I need to sign. And we think it's best if you don't sleep here tonight." He nodded, maintaining his calm demeanor. "No problem. I'll go to a hotel." He took the papers from his backpack, handed them to me, and I signed them right there, leaning on the kitchen counter. Then we said goodbye quickly and discreetly. He left right after that. As soon as the door closed behind him, I approached Ruan, hugged him tightly, and kissed him gently, seeking a reconnection with him through the gesture. "Is everything okay, love?" I asked, looking into his eyes. He smiled slightly and replied, "Yes, everything's fine." The atmosphere in the house seemed to breathe more easily after Felipe left. But even so, Something still hung in the air, a remnant of that inevitable discomfort of having an ex sitting on the sofa, where Ruan now sits every day. Still hugging there in the kitchen, he wrapped his arms around my waist and pulled me closer. We stood there in silence for a while, just feeling each other's presence. "I trust you, okay?" he said in a low voice, resting his forehead against mine. "I just don't like being caught off guard like that." "I know," I replied, "and you're right. I should have warned you, but it all happened so fast. I didn't really know how to handle it myself." He sighed and kissed me lightly on the mouth. "It's okay. I just don't want anyone from your past messing with what we're building." "They won't," I assured him, holding his face with both hands. "What I have with you is real, and it's only with you." He smiled slightly, more relaxed. Then he took me by the hand. "Come on, let's lie down for a while, then we'll think about dinner." We went to the bedroom in silence, but it was a good silence, the kind that says everything without needing words. We lay down side by side, our bodies intertwined as if seeking to reaffirm what we already knew, that between us there was something too strong for any past to get in the way. I rested my face on his chest, listening to his heartbeat slow down. And there, in that simple moment, I knew for sure that no document, no unexpected visit, no old ghost had any place in my life anymore, because my present was him. We lay there for a few minutes, in silence, just feeling each other's presence. Me with my face against his chest, him with his hand slowly sliding down my back. The touches were slow, affectionate, as if we were cleaning away any remnants of that unexpected visit. Until, without saying a word, he slowly turned me around and looked me in the eyes. Ruan's gaze had a different intensity. It wasn't jealousy, it wasn't anger, it was just the desire to have me there, completely, just for him. Our lips met in a slow, deep kiss, full of feeling. And there, without rushing, our bodies sought each other out, fitting together as if they already knew each other's every curve. We made love with abandon, calmly, like people who reaffirm their feelings not with words, but with touch, with warmth, with breath mingling between kisses and whispers. In that room, at that moment, it was just the two of us, and nothing else mattered. The next day began like so many others. Ruan left early for work, with that calmness that only he had, kissed me on the neck and whispered, "See you later," before leaving. I didn't even open my eyes properly, just murmured a muffled, "I love you," into the pillow. Later, towards the end of the afternoon, while I was absent-mindedly cutting vegetables in the kitchen, my cell phone rang. I didn't recognize the number, but I answered without thinking. "Hello?" On the other end, a firm, masculine voice spoke bluntly. "Good evening. This is the fire department. Are you Andre?" "Yes, this is he." "Are you close to Ruan Almeida?" My hand froze in midair. An awkward silence fell on the line. My stomach churned. "Yes, I am. I'm his boyfriend. What happened?" The next pause on the other end was cruel. "Ruan is currently being treated. There was a large fire in a building downtown. The team was surprised by an explosion. He inhaled a lot of smoke and fell during the evacuation. He was taken to the hospital unconscious, but he is now stable. He is at the municipal hospital, in the emergency ward." I felt as if the floor had disappeared. The knife fell to the kitchen floor, and I had to lean on the counter to keep from falling, too. The word unconscious hammered in my head nonstop. I don't even remember how I left the house. I grabbed my car keys, but I took an Uber. I couldn't even hold the steering wheel straight. The road seemed endless, the traffic a nightmare, the air inside the car suffocating. I looked at the GPS every 5 seconds, praying for a shortcut, for a miracle. When I arrived, I went straight in, saying his name, my voice already breaking. "Ruan Almeida, firefighter." He was just brought in. The receptionist looked at the system and called someone. A nurse took me to him. The image I saw there will stay with me forever. He was lying down, his face covered in soot, his lips parched, an oxygen mask on his face. There were scratches on his arms, a bandage on his shoulder, and he was still unconscious. At that moment, the silence in the room was louder than any siren. I approached slowly, touched his hand carefully, as if any movement could break him. "Honey," I whispered, I'm here, okay? I knelt down beside the stretcher and rested my forehead on his hand. I didn't know whether to pray, cry, or scream. The only thing I knew was that if he didn't wake up, I had no idea how to go on. It didn't take long. The doctor rushed in and looked at me seriously. "We need to run some tests, urgently. Can you wait for us in the next room?" I nodded, speechless, with a lump in my throat. He pushed the stretcher out, and I could only follow with my eyes until the door closed. That scene, that image of Ruan being taken away, unconscious, covered in wires, surrounded by nurses, it stuck inside me, like an open wound. I went to the waiting room, but my body didn't feel like my own. I sat down. I stood up. I walked around in circles. I sat down again, but nothing calmed me down. The only thing that accompanied me was fear suffocating, desperate fear that wouldn't let me breathe properly. Sadness washed over me like a heavy wave. The minutes dragged on. Every second seemed to last an eternity, and there I was, helpless, unable to do anything. All I could do was close my eyes and pray. Pray hard, pray with faith. Please, God, don't take him away from me. And it was there, in that cold hospital room, alone, with my heart in my hands, that I knew for sure. I knew in a way I had never known before. I loved him. It wasn't just affection, it wasn't just passion, nor was it just the comfort of having someone by my side. It was love. A complete, deep love, the kind you feel in your bones when you think you might lose it. I loved Ruan, and all I wanted at that moment was to see him open his eyes and say that everything was okay. After more than an hour in that limbo between fear and hope, the emergency room door opened. I got up immediately, my heart racing. It was the same doctor as before. His gaze was calmer now. "Mr. Andre?" "That's me," I replied, almost without a voice. He approached and spoke in a softer tone. "Ruan is awake. The tests didn't indicate anything serious. He just had a slight bruise on his shoulder and inhaled a lot of smoke. He is conscious, but will need to remain under observation for a few hours." My legs felt wobbly. A mixture of relief, exhaustion, and emotion overwhelmed me. I took a deep breath, trying to hold back the tears, but it was useless. They came anyway. "Can I see him?" "Yes, you can, but no talking for now. He's still a little weak." I followed the doctor to the room where Ruan was. When I entered, he was no longer wearing a mask. He was lying down, pale, but with his eyes open, and when he saw me, he tried to smile. "I'm fine," he said in a low, hoarse voice, "just a little broken." I approached him slowly and held his hand tightly. I kissed his fingers as I had done before, only this time he was conscious, looking back at me. "You scared me, love," I murmured, my voice breaking. "I thought I was going to lose you." He ran his thumb over my hand and said, with a steady gaze, even though he was tired, "You're not getting rid of me that easily, love." I smiled through my tears. I leaned over and kissed his forehead, then rested my head on his. "I love you, Ruan." This time I said it, without fear, without hesitation. He closed his eyes for a second, and when he opened them again, there was a different sparkle there. "I love you too, Andre, very much." And in that hospital room, amid the smell of medicine, the cold light, and the distant sound of monitors, I knew that nothing else mattered, because he was alive, and because the love I felt was now mutual. The next morning, the doctor returned to the room with a calmer expression. "Ruan had a good night and responded well to treatment. We're going to discharge him today. He just needs rest and monitoring for the next few days." It was like a huge weight had been lifted off my chest. I thanked him, my heart relieved, and started organizing everything to take him home. Ruan, though still tired, smiled when he heard the news. "I can't wait to sleep in my bed. In our bed," he corrected with a weak but affectionate smile. On the way home, the silence between us was calm, heavy with meaning. My hands were on the steering wheel, his resting on my thigh, as if they didn't want to let go. We didn't exchange many words we didn't need to. His presence there, alive, conscious, by my side, was all I needed to breathe properly again. When we arrived, He looked around with different eyes, as if he saw that place, our home, with more value, with more life. "This place," he said, sitting down on the sofa, "is my place." I smiled and sat down next to him. I ran my hand through his short hair and kissed his forehead. "And it's where you're going to stay for a long time." He rested his head on my shoulder, sighed, and we stayed there for a while, in silence, feeling each other's presence as if it were healing. "I was scared, he said softly. "I thought I wasn't coming back. I thought I was going to leave you alone." "I was scared too," I confessed. "But now we have a new chance, and I'm not going to waste a second with you." He looked at me, his eyes watering, and said simply, "I love you, even more now." I hugged him tightly, and that hug contained everything: the shock, the fear, the love, the silent promise to never leave anything unfinished again. The day after he was discharged, Ruan woke up feeling more rested. He still looked tired, but his breathing was steady, and his face no longer bore the weight of the hospital. I prepared breakfast while he took a shower. I arranged everything calmly: warm bread, fruit, coffee, just the way he liked it. When he appeared in the kitchen, wearing a sweatshirt and his hair still damp, he looked like a different person, lighter, more at peace. "All this for me?" he joked, approaching me. "All for you. You deserve it," I replied, pulling out a chair for him to sit down. We ate slowly, as if time had finally slowed down. We talked about simple things: the smell of soap, the bread that was slightly burnt in the toaster, the pleasant silence. But after a while, the inevitable subject came up. "I've been thinking," he began, cup in hand. "We live together, practically. We share a routine, a bed, a toothbrush, and I've never stopped to ask you, where is this going for you?" I looked up immediately, surprised by the direct question. But I took a deep breath and was honest. "It's going where I want to be. With you. More certain than ever after everything that's happened." He nodded, looking at his own cup, as if thinking about everything at once. "I feel that too, that we found each other, and after what happened, I don't want to live as if tomorrow is guaranteed anymore." I leaned closer and held his hand across the table. "What are you thinking, Ruan?" He smiled slightly, shyly, but with shining eyes. "I'm thinking that maybe it's time for us to stop having two homes, and have just one." My heart beat faster. I was silent for a few seconds, absorbing every word. "You want to live here? Officially?" "I do. I want to wake up with you every day, and go to sleep with you knowing that this is my home. No coming and going, no suitcases, no shared space. Just the two of us." I smiled. A smile that came from within. "Then come. This house has always been yours." He got up, came over to me, and hugged me from behind, resting his face on my shoulder. "Thank you for loving me, even when I didn't know how much I needed it. And thank you for staying, even when I thought I'd lose you." At that moment, I knew. What we had stopped being a beautiful story had become a life we were building together day after day. For the rest of the day, we stayed together, quietly, in our own space. The TV was on in the background, but we weren't even paying attention. All that mattered was being there, with each other. We looked at each other more than we talked. And even in the silence, a whole world was being said. At some point in the afternoon, lying side by side, our bodies naturally seeking each other, our kisses grew deeper. The desire was there, pulsing, but so was the concern. "You're still recovering," I murmured, my hand slowly sliding across his skin. But Ruan looked at me, with that look of his, firm and sweet at the same time, and whispered, "It's okay, love. I'm fine." Even with care, calmly, we made love. Without haste, without exaggeration, as if each touch were a promise that we were alive, together, whole. I could feel him breathing close to me, his eyes closed, his lips parted, and that was all I needed. During our gentle movements, he held my hand, and, every now and then, repeated softly, "I'm fine, don't worry." And I believed him. Because there, in that moment of surrender, there was no pain, only connection. Only love. It was different from all the other times. slower, deeper, as if our bodies were saying everything that words had not yet been able to express. And when we hugged afterwards, still panting, still sweaty, I knew that that moment, even though it was simple, would be one of the most memorable of my life. In the days that followed, even though Ruan was visibly improving, I could see in his eyes a tiredness that went beyond the physical. The fear still lingered there, behind the smiles and the "I'm fine," he repeated to reassure me. That's when I had an idea. He needed to get away for a while, breathe some fresh air, get away from the heavy routine and what had happened. He needed lightness, and so did I. So, while he slept on the couch in the afternoon, between tea and a blanket, I started researching. I wanted something simple, but special. A place where we could reconnect with life and with each other. After some searching, I found it. A charming inn, surrounded by nature, overlooking a calm lake, with easy trails, a fireplace in the room, and silence, lots of silence. A secluded retreat, just a few hours away by car, perfect for a weekend just for us. I booked the nicest cottage, the most secluded, the coziest. I waited for the right moment to tell him. At the end of the night, while we were having dinner by the dim light in the kitchen, with the table full of little details I had prepared, I looked at him with a smile and said, "I want to take you somewhere." He looked at me curiously. Somewhere? A weekend. Just the two of us. A beautiful, peaceful place where no one will call you a firefighter, and you won't hear sirens or smell smoke. He smiled, and in that smile, I knew I had made the right decision. "You did this for me?" "I did this for us." He got up, came over to me, and hugged me from behind, resting his face on my shoulder. "You're amazing. You know that? And you need to rest, Ruan. We need to breathe. And I want to see you happy, carefree, whole." He kissed me on the neck and said in a low voice, "Let's do it. As long as it's with you, my sweet bear." We left early on Friday. The sun was still hiding behind the clouds, and the world seemed quieter than usual, as if wishing us a peaceful trip. During the trip, we didn't talk much. It was that kind of comfortable silence that doesn't weigh you down. Ruan looked at the landscape through the window, with a slight smile on his face. Sometimes he turned to me and touched my arm lightly, as if he just needed to confirm that I was still there. When we finally arrived, he let out a barely audible, "Wow," and I understood. The place was exactly as I had hoped. A light-colored wooden cottage surrounded by tall trees and the distant sound of running water. There was a lake nearby, calm, mirroring the cloudy sky. "This looks like a scene from a movie," he said, getting out of the car and turning slowly, looking around. "All we need is to live the right story inside it," I replied, smiling. We entered the cottage and were greeted by the smell of wood, stone walls, and a fireplace ready to be lit. In the bedroom there was a huge bed with soft blankets, large windows overlooking the greenery, and silence, an embracing silence. Ruan dropped his backpack on the floor and threw himself onto the bed with open arms, like someone who had arrived at the right place. "This is already the best place I've been in the last few months. And I just want you to rest. Don't think about anything but yourself. About us." He reached out and pulled me close. "Then lie down here. Help me remember what it's like to breathe slowly." We lay down together, facing the light wooden ceiling. His breathing gradually slowed, his hands searching for mine. "You know," he said softly, "if someone ever asked me what peace is, I would answer this." I moved closer, rested my forehead against his, and whispered, "Peace is seeing you well, and now, finally, you are." Later, after a peaceful nap and a few minutes of contemplation by the lake, we returned to the cabin. The air was cold, but the interior of the cabin was cozy, warmed by the soft light and the crackling of the fireplace I lit as soon as we entered. While I was tidying up in the kitchen, Ruan appeared in the bedroom with a lazy look and a crooked smile on his face. "Come here," he called, his voice low. "Did you see that bathtub?" I nodded, laughing. "I did, and I was already thinking about it." "Then come on. I want you there with me." The bathtub was large, made of light wood, positioned near the glass window, overlooking the trees outside. I filled it with warm water and some salts that were provided. Steam soon began to rise, and the atmosphere became even more intimate, enveloping. We got in slowly, facing each other. The water enveloped our bodies with a pleasant warmth, and the silence outside seemed to protect what we were experiencing inside. We spent a few minutes just looking at each other, exchanging light caresses and silent smiles. I ran my fingers carefully over his shoulders, while he slid his hand slowly and instinctively down my thigh. "Is everything okay?" I asked, resting my forehead against his. "Everything's more than fine." And after a soft kiss, he added, "And I want you here, now." We kissed more hungrily, but without rushing. Our bodies moved naturally, fitting together in the warm water, between wet touches, muffled moans, and increasingly ragged breaths. We made love right there, in the bathtub, calmly, tenderly, with restrained but intense desire. It was as if the whole world had disappeared, leaving only the warmth of our skin, our closed eyes, and our silent surrender. The sound of the water mingled with our movements, the sliding of our hands, the words whispered between kisses. There was no more pain, no more hurry, no more bad memories, just that moment, alive and whole, marked forever between us. Afterwards, we lay there embracing, the water growing cold and our bodies entwined. Ruan ran his fingers slowly down my back and in a low voice, almost a whisper, said, "I wish life was just this, you and me, here, now." I closed my eyes for a second, feeling each of his words hit me deep in my chest, and replied, "Then let's make life like this. Every day. I love you." He said, "I love you too." On Saturday afternoon, the manager of the Inn, a friendly man with a calm voice and an easy smile, surprised us with a thoughtful gesture. "I've prepared something special for you," he said, handing us a basket and pointing toward the lake. "I thought you might like to watch the sunset from there. Everything's ready. Just go ahead." We thanked him with a smile and followed the short trail to the lake, where a checkered towel was already spread out on the grass, surrounded by small cushions, a straw basket, wine glasses, and a bottle of wine resting in an ice bucket. Fresh fruit, bread, cheese, and even homemade sweets completed the scene. The sun began to set in the sky, tinging everything with golden and orange hues. The water reflected the sky perfectly, as if time had paused just for us. We sat there side by side, our bare feet touching the cool grass, and our hearts feeling lighter than they had in a long time. Ruan, with a glass in his hand, gazed at the horizon in silence. Ruan swirled the glass in his hand, looked at the horizon and said, in a low voice, almost to himself, "It's been a long time since I've felt this way. So light." I turned slightly toward him, observing his peaceful profile, his eyes lost in the landscape. "It's nice here, isn't it?" I commented simply. He smiled slightly, without taking his eyes off the sky. "It's perfect here, but that's because of who's with me." I looked at him, lightly touching his knee with my fingers. "I'm fine too, and you're the reason." Ruan turned his face toward me, his gaze direct, sincere, full of calm. "Promise we'll do this more often?" "I promise, as many times as you want." He rested his forehead against mine, closed his eyes for a moment, and whispered, "Then don't leave my life, okay?" I held his hand tightly. "Not even if you tell me to." The weekend flew by, light, beautiful, full of moments that were etched in our skin and hearts. It was as if time had bent to give us those 2 days, just for us. But Sunday arrived, and with it, that bittersweet feeling of having to go back. On Monday, back to our routine, we did what we had decided days ago. We took Ruan's things out of his house. Closet by closet, box by box, each of his items found a place in my house, now our house. We put his old house up for rent and officially sealed what had been real for a long time. We were living together. For real. No coming and going. No excuses. Just the two of us, under the same roof, every day. Early on Wednesday, he went back to work. He was wearing his uniform, his backpack on his shoulders, his eyes steady as always. But the moment he walked out the door, something squeezed my heart. A sudden fear. An insecurity I couldn't explain. The scare from a few days ago still lingered in my memory like a quiet shadow. I approached him, held his face in both hands, and before he left I whispered, "Honey, I love you. Promise you'll come home safely?" He looked at me sweetly, with that little smile that only he knew how to give, and replied, "I love you too, my sweet bear. And I promise, I'll come back home safely." He gave me a calm, strong, meaningful kiss, and then he left. I stood at the door for a few seconds after he left. The scent of his perfume still lingered in the air, the warmth of his embrace still on my skin, and my heart already waiting for him to return. The day passed slowly. Every noise coming from the street made me look at the window, and no matter how hard I tried to distract myself with anything, it was impossible not to think about him. But when I heard the sound of the key turning in the door in the late afternoon, my heart calmed down. It was him. Ruan came in with that manner I already knew from afar, decisive steps, his uniform still marked by work, his face sweaty, his eyes bright. He dropped his backpack on the floor and came straight to me. "I miss you so much," he said softly, hugging me tightly, his mouth already searching for mine. The kiss was urgent, wet, full of pent-up desire. His hands gripped my waist as if he wanted me all there, right then and there. "Go take a shower," I said, with a smile between kisses. "You're all sweaty." He let out a hoarse laugh, gave me a light slap on the butt, and replied, "Then come with me." He went straight to the bathroom, taking off his clothes on the way. From the door, with the shower already on, he called me, "Come on, love, take a shower with me." I went in without thinking twice. The water fell hot on his shoulders, and steam already filled the room. I leaned against his body from behind, my hands sliding down his broad back, my fingers exploring, recognizing. We turned to face each other, and the kisses resumed, intense, hot, with that delicious urgency of people who have spent the whole day wanting each other. Our breath mingled with the sound of the water. Our skin stuck together, our bodies fit together with hunger and tenderness at the same time. We made love right there, under the shower, with the water running between our bodies and our eyes closed in pure surrender. The touches were firm, intimate, intense, as if he wanted to make sure I was real. And so did I. His every gesture seemed to say, "I'm back, and this is where I want to be." And that's exactly what he did. He came back. And he stayed. After that shower, we lay down together, exhausted and satisfied, our bodies still warm, our skin damp, our hearts calm. He leaned against me naturally, like someone who knows exactly where he belongs. That scene, simple, silent, made me even more in love. It was there, in that everyday gesture, that I saw the magnitude of what we were building. And that's how our days have been. Full of affection, presence, and devotion. There's no rush, no exaggerated promises, just a sincere desire to be, to stay. Our routine now smells like freshly brewed coffee, shared towels, messages in the middle of the day, and the certainty that he will come home in the evening. Our home, it is love that grows in care, in light touches, in comfortable silence. Love that doesn't need to be proven all the time because it is already there, whole, firm, happening, and I honestly couldn't ask for anything more. Because in Ruan, I found what I didn't even know I was looking for. Real love, present, lived day after day. I hope you enjoyed our story. If you liked it, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. It helps a lot. Oh, and don't forget, the uncut version is in the comments. With much love, Andre and Ruan.